Hello, my name's Fran Sands. Welcome to my boxing coach. In this video, I'm going to give you a breakdown of Errol Spence Jr. I'm going to give you the 3 key things that I think make him a top class fighter. This is not a video analysis, so I'm not going to be drawing lines on videos or anything like this. We're going to talk about it and I'm going to demonstrate and I'm going to explain. And hopefully at the end of it, you will have a good understanding of why this kid is a top operator in the welterweight and super welterweight ranks. Before we get started, go download your book, The Beginner Boxer Toolkit. Join the thousands of others who've downloaded this book. There is all kinds in there. 67 pages, the 10 core skills with links to all the videos, how to set up your own home gym, the 5 rules of hitting the heavy bag, 7 steps to super shadow boxing capability, how to get the right mindset, how to set up your training regime. There's loads in there. You'll keep coming back to it, whether you're in this for fitness or for competition. There's a link down below. There will be a link at the end. Go download that book. Right, let's get on with things. Errol Spence Jr. First time I saw this kid was in 2012 London Olympics. Immediately, as soon as I saw him, yes, I like him. Solid, everything where it should be. Just a great, compact boxing style. Really good. He was 135 amateur fights, so he's been schooled really well. He was a Golden Gloves champion, multiple national champion. And as I say, first time I saw him in the Olympics, and he made me stop. So let's think about, there are 3 areas I want you to think about. So his form, okay. Errol Spence Jr is a southpaw. No great sort of surprise there. What's subtle, he has his body weight on his rear foot. So there are 3 broad ways you can have your body weight. On your front leg, I'm staying in southpaw. Front leg, it's quite offensive. Central or rear leg. And Errol Spence generally moves between central and rear leg. This gives him a slightly defensive posture. That doesn't mean he's an overtly defensive fighter. It just means he is going to be a bit more difficult to hit than you think when you're standing in front of him. Also, he tends to crouch a little to the side, so his head comes very slightly off the centre line. Okay? Again, makes it very difficult for an orthodox boxer to think about getting jabs going down the line, and that's really important. He also has a conventional guard. He keeps his hands nice and high, so it's very rarely does he do any of this. His hands are here. He tends to fight out of a solid conventional guard, and again, that's important for the next thing I'm going to explain. The thing about Spence Jr and his southpaw stance is that doesn't really deploy conventional southpaw tactics. So if I'm a southpaw, you're an orthodox, generally speaking, what we like to do, if your lead foot is here, as a southpaw, I want to be sort of getting my lead foot outside yours, and I want to try and dominate this space. And likewise, if you're fighting me you're an orthodox and I'm a southpaw, you want to kind of dominate this space. Spence doesn't do a lot of that. He will step that lead foot forward with his jab. We'll come on to the jab in a moment. But generally speaking, he stays quite, he stays off to his left. So he'll just do this, you know, so he doesn't try and capture that ground. So what does that mean? Well, it means he's exposed quite a lot to the backhands of an orthodox fighter, to the right hand. And orthodoxes are raised from the very outset that when you fight against a southpaw, you use right hands. So that's a prime weapon against a southpaw. But you've got Spence kind of drifting into that space. Now, he doesn't move forward into that space, but he drifts either sideways or slightly backwards. So he's continually urging the opponent, the southpaw opponent, to use backhands. So this is the conventional guard. So he's blocking lots of these backhands. Okay? But so what that means is an orthodox is thinking less about throwing jabs at this southpaw and throwing backhands. Well, what? Throwing backhands, dry, it's a lot more energetic. You have to put more energy in. So all of the time, his whole style is set up at the rear foot, drifting to the right against the orthodox, getting them to use lots of right hands. He's trying to sap their energy right from the outset. He wants their work rate high, and he just steps on them. And he's there all the time, blocking these backhands, putting pressure on with this overall stance, southpaw, rear leg, head off the centre line. I want you to throw lots of backhands, and you're going to put loads of energy. It doesn't matter. You've turned up to fight Errol Spence Jr. You are going to be working hard tonight. And that's his whole strategy. So that's the first thing, his setup. The second thing is his long range work. Really simple, okay? He has a great jab. From there, bang, straight out and straight back. And that's where he will try and get his lead foot. Occasionally he'll either step on the foot of the opponent or slightly out to the back, there to the side. And he will do his best to really get that jab working. So he's got the opponent throwing lots of backhands, his hands up here, and he's working this jab. And then after that, he'll most often throw kind of looping long shots, right? There is nothing special going on with his long range work. It is functional. He's capable, he's strong, but it's all about putting that pressure on and breaking things down with that long range work, getting the jab going and whipping some backhands in, right? Nothing fancy. This is just 101, straightforward, long range fighting. It's all about the pressure. That brings us to number 3. Errol Spence Jr has this ability to do real hand-to-hand trench fighting. You know, this guy, at close range, he's the human equivalent of sort of blunt force trauma, but he does it with great skill. He doesn't use a lot of combos. He's not a big combination puncher. So he's using singles and doubles, but these are very well executed hooks and uppercuts. And he's got this, so you think about it. He's got this stance, he's making the opponent work. His ultimate end game, I believe a lot of the time, is to bring it to this range. I believe he feels really quite comfortable at close range, and he knows he can do lots of damage. But he has these really subtle ways. I mean, I'll do it in southpaw in orthodox, sorry. If he's at close range with someone, he will whack them to the body and then shift position, but he'll do it at the same time. So what you've got is bang, and then he'll throw uppercuts, and then back to the front, back to the standard position. So he's whacking these hooks in. It's the kind of old Tyson thing, bang, bang. But he's really good at whipping the shots from body to head and back again. This guy just bangs away, but he uses these little subtle foot shift of the feet to maintain his defensive capability. Them hands stay up. He doesn't want to break any of his own rules in terms of the way he deploys his fighting. So here's the thing that I really find interesting. This is a continuum. So these 3 areas of his style almost forms a strategy. His overall form and setup is set up. He's difficult to hit because of this high guard. He's got a slightly defensive posture weight on the back leg, but he's constantly wanting the opponent to throw big shots at him because he knows that that's going to tire them out. They're going to put a lot of energy into that. Fighters love to just settle down into a jab. That's what fighters are brought up doing, just popping that jab. Well, against most orthodox fighters, the jab is useless against them. So he's getting them to really bang away with backhands. That long range work, where he steps in, lead foot outside the opponent's lead foot, and then the trench fighting capability. It's a strategy. So by the time he's got 2, 3, 4, 5 rounds under his belt, he's really beginning to hurt people. He's getting to close range. And as his career evolves, as he's getting towards the end of his career, like most fighters, there's going to be less movement with the feet. You know, a few years back, he had quite heavy movement. You watch his more recent last few fights, The feet are becoming more static. He's relying more on that trench fighting approach, that close range, bashing away. Which brings me to a little story. Back in 2017, he was fighting Kell Brook over here in England. Kell Brook, solid welterweight, you know, I think he beat Sean Porter. Good fighter, right? Good fighter. Strong, hard hitting. Errol Spence goes out, Errol Spence Jr goes out right from the outset. And I could just see he was just on top of Brook all the time. And he, you know, he'll give ground occasionally, but his urge is to keep going, keep fighting. Brook is a switch hitter, primarily out of orthodox though. And he just kept on him, kept on him, kept on him. Stops him in the 11th round, finishes him. 2 days later, I come into the gym and my fellow boxing coach, Ian, he was in Sheffield on the Friday, in the same complex where the fight was happening. He was on like a work course, whatever it was. He gets in the lift, doors open, who's in the lift? Errol Spence Jr and Derek James, his trainer. I think this is on like the Thursday night before the fight. And it was about 11 o'clock. He'd just done a big workout, so he's aligning his body clock to fight time. And my mate Ian just kind of goes, "Oh, hello, lads." He goes, "Oh, really, really nice to meet you." And they're both really nice. And Ian says, "Oh, so what's your plan for Saturday?" And Derek James just goes, "We're just going to stand on his toes." That's what Spence Jr is all about. Just going to stand on his toes, get on top of him, put the pressure on, make Brook work hard from the outset. And of course, the commentary over here is just, they're going absolutely crazy them first few rounds. But I could see what was happening. I only spoke to Ian a couple of days after the fight. But I could see what Spence was doing. And I was thinking, you know, all right, Kell Brook's landing a few shots, but it's a fight, he's going to. But you can see the tide of what's happening here. You know, Errol Spence Jr is turning that screw, constant pressure on. So there we have it. I want to stop there. The three things. Fantastic fighter, Errol Spence Jr. Don't forget, download your book, The Beginner Boxer Toolkit. Subscribe, leave a comment. I love it when I do these type of videos. People like to leave comments, so please do. I'll try my best. I'll certainly read all of them. I'll try my best to get back to as many as I can as well. Otherwise, subscribe, download your book. I'll see you in the next video.